Hi everybody, Levi Clay here, and today we are going to talk about some signature guitars. In fact, this is a list of signature guitars that I kind of wish I owned. We were talking about signature guitars on the Guitar Souls podcast this week. Please do go and check it out here on YouTube. And it got me thinking about a bunch of signature guitars which I would love to add to my collection. Now, of course, I have a vast collection of guitars and I don't really need any more guitars, which is probably one of the reasons I don't own any of these. But if anything on this list came up for the right price, and I don't know what the right price is, but if it did come up for the right price, these are things that I would love to add to my collection. So if signature guitars are something that interest you, or if there are any signature guitars that exist that you would love to own, please do let me know in that comment section below. Hit that subscribe button and all of that good stuff. Now, this episode goes out to my good friend Chris Locke. Thank you so much for your support over on Patreon, buddy. Really means a lot and has made a big difference this month. If any of you guys want to check me out on Patreon, link is in the description. So, before getting on to the main 5 guitars, I wanted to do a couple of honourable mentions. These, sure, I kind of would like to own these, but the level of want for these is nowhere near as dear to my heart as some of these other models that I'm going to talk about. So the first one on the list would be the Per Nilsson Singularity 7, the True Temperament guitar. This is a brand new signature model, a stunning guitar. I'm a big fan of Per Nilsson's playing. I'm a big fan of Ola Strandberg and the way he approaches modern guitar design. And I'm a big fan of the True Temperament system. So combining all of those things together is something that is very appealing to me, especially a multi-scale with True Temperament on. I'm a big fan of multi-scale when it comes to extended range instruments. So yeah, massive fan of this. I think it's a very cool design. And yeah, it has the Strandberg Endure neck, but it's a modified version of the Endure neck. For those of you unfamiliar with the Endure neck, it is the back of the neck isn't round in any way. It's 3 straight planes, which is designed to always have you able to have your thumb on the back of the neck in a comfortable position no matter where you are on the neck. It's an interesting design and a great example of why Ola Strandberg should be taken incredibly seriously when it comes to modern guitar design, because he's trying to do new things. So yeah, very cool guitar, big fan of Per, and yeah, I would kind of like to own one of these at some point in the future maybe. Very unlikely that it will happen, but a cool guitar and you should probably go and check it out. Next up on the list is an honourable mention, and I'll explain why it's honourable in a second, but it's the Buckethead signature Gibson Les Paul. Now, this is a super, super cool guitar because it's so different from anything that Gibson have ever really done for anyone. Sure, it is a Les Paul, it is the traditional Les Paul shape, but I believe it's a 27-inch scale on this, an extended scale, to match up with Buckethead's massive size. And the idea of a Les Paul with an extended scale length is cool to me because I'm not crazy on the shorter scale length of the Les Paul in general. I also like the fact that this guitar is mainly white. It just looks a little bit different. Of course, it's got those 2 kill switch buttons on there, those arcade buttons, which you can do some of Buckethead's stutter effects. Yeah, I definitely think it's a very unique looking Les Paul, and I admire that. It's something that I've always thought was particularly cool. There is a slightly cheaper studio version of these, but generally speaking, these guitars are all over a decade old now. They're hard to get your hands on, and they are considerably more expensive than they should be when you do manage to find them. The reason this isn't higher on my list of things that I would really, really want is because, in all honesty, I'm not a huge Buckethead fan. In fact, I'd go as far as saying I'm not really a Buckethead fan at all. I'm a huge fan of the Guns N' Roses album Chinese Democracy, on which he played. So there is that, and when I think of Buckethead, I think of that era that he was in Guns N' Roses more so than his solo music. His solo music never really spoke to me, but I do think this is a very cool guitar. And if one came to me super, super cheap, maybe like £1,000, I'd probably buy one for £1,000. But no more than that, definitely no more than that. Okay, let's get on to the main list, these 5 guitars that I would absolutely love to own. Now, the top ones were kind of obvious to me. I had to think a little bit harder for the ones at the bottom and ask myself, would I really want to own these? Because of course there are signature guitars out there that if you gave me them, I'd be happy to have them, but I wouldn't really seek them out. For example, Danny Gatton is one of my all-time favourite players. I've got a nice Telecaster that reminds me of Danny Gatton. He has a signature Fender. I don't really think I'd want one of those. It's not really what I think of when I think of Danny Gatton. So things like that, definitely not for me. But what I've put at number 5 on this list is it's a kind of an oddity. So back in, I believe it was 2003, John 5 appeared on Total Guitar Magazine, on the cover of Total Guitar Magazine, and it featured a rendition of Sugarfoot Rag, which would be on his first album. And it's it was a big game changer for me hearing that, because it was something that I hadn't really heard people doing before. Sure, it wasn't authentic jazz, it wasn't authentic country, but it was certainly a rock and metal player who brought in some of these elements which were very unfamiliar to my ear. And I read that magazine from cover to cover, and I spent so much time being fascinated by John 5 and his playing and his history. And obviously that would end up influencing who I would become as a player quite significantly. Of course, I make a lot of my money and living now in music, in country music. And as I say, well, I don't really think of John 5 as a country player. He certainly has an understanding and respect of the genre. So his original signature Fender Telecaster is just cool to me. It's black, it has a mirrored or chrome pickguard on it. And the thing that really stands out about it is the paddle headstock, that kind of old style paddle headstock. It looks a bit ridiculous, but anytime I see that, I just think of the cover of that magazine and how much I lusted after John 5 and his playing when I was a teenager. So I think it's a super cool guitar. There is a version of this guitar available with a Bigsby tremolo on it. Probably not really the model for me, because I like fixed bridges on my guitars. That's what I'm all about. I'm really into the fixed bridge guitar thing. So yeah, definitely one without the fixed bridge, but super cool guitar from a super cool player and worth checking out. Next on the list, kind of highlighting how much of a Telecaster guy I am. Number 4 on my list would be the Andy Wood Suhr Telecaster. Now I'm talking about the one here that has a tremolo on it. Now I appreciate that what I just said is that I'm a Telecaster guy, I'm a fixed bridge guy, that's what I like. Well, that is absolutely true. Almost all of the guitars that I own have fixed bridges on them. In fact, as it stands, I don't own a single guitar with a tremolo. I've got one coming in the near future. But generally speaking, I'm just not about tremolos. But I think Andy Wood's signature Telecaster is super cool because it features a tremolo. It's not often you see a Telecaster with a tremolo. Now this really is just a modern, like it's a modern Suhr style rock shred guitar, if you like, 24 frets on it and 2 humbuckers. So it's really removed from what a Telecaster is, but visually it still has that Telecaster appeal to it. And I'm a big fan of Andy Wood. He's a friend of mine. I do transcriptions for him. So there's also that aspect of things. But this is one that I would genuinely love to own. I'm great friends with guys like Martin Miller. He has a signature Ibanez. Sure, I'd love to own one of those too, but it's not really who I am as a player. Whereas this Telecaster look, this Telecaster vibe, it gels with me at my very core. So if I needed a modern rock guitar, something where I did need a tremolo, I think the Andy Wood Telecaster would definitely be the one for me. Absolutely love the look of it. It's it falls in with that John 5 thing, really, at a glance. It's that black and the chromy look to it. So yeah, really, really cool guitar from an incredibly cool player. Well worth checking out. Please do go and check Andy's playing out and check out his Suhr Telecaster. Next up, number 3, is the Brett Garsed signature ESP. Now, I have wanted one of these for so long, and I have passed up opportunities to own these so many times, and I kick myself over and over and over. If one of these came up for about £1,100-1,200, I'd probably snap it up now. So Brett Garsed, Australian guitar player, really kind of one of the kings of that modern legato sound, though of course he was doing it way before. It's kind of the middle gap between guys like Alan Holdsworth and Tom Quayle. He was hugely influential on me in my formative years of playing guitar. I loved his sound, I loved his phrasing. I still think he has some of the best chromatic lines on the market. Just an incredible player, very melodic player, and I spent a lot of time listening to him and watching him play, and he was always playing this beautiful ESP Horizon. Now, the ESP Horizon, generally speaking, not a guitar for me. Brett's version is super cool because it has that old kind of dolphin tail headstock on it. And yeah, I really like that look. And again, this is a fixed bridge guitar, which falls very much in line with who I am as a player. Of course, I play slide guitar, play a lot of slide guitar actually, have some slide guitar books on the market, and Brett Garsed was one of the reasons I picked up slide guitar. In fact, you'll see on my main Telecaster when I'm playing it, I have a strap with a slide holder in it. That's a Brett Garsed signature strap. So I'm a huge Brett Garsed fan, and it annoys me that I've passed up the opportunity to own this guitar so many times. There's none of these available on the market right now. I checked eBay the other day, and I checked Reverb, and can't find one. So super cool guitar, would absolutely love to have one, and would actually love it if Brett Garsed would keep releasing more videos and music, because I think he's one of the greats. He's an underappreciated master of the guitar. Okay, on to number 2. Now, number 2, this is a funny one because I used to own this guitar. I traded this guitar for another Vigier guitar. This is a Vigier guitar. It is the Shawn Lane Master signature guitar. Now, like Buckethead, I'm not actually a huge Shawn Lane fan. Sure, I have a bunch of Shawn Lane in my collection. I've listened to a lot of Shawn Lane over the years. But in terms of my list of, most influential guitar players for me, I wouldn't really put Shawn up there as one of my biggest influences. I appreciate, what he did, and I think he has some really cool stuff, but he's definitely not one of my kind of go-to artists. But this is a really, really cool guitar. Now, my criticism of the guitar is it's a shorter scale length than standard scale length. It's more in line with the Gibson scale length, which I'm not crazy on. But the thing that's wild about this guitar is it has a completely flat radius on the fretboard, which feels absolutely bizarre when you play. It almost feels like the fretboard curves the other way because you're so used to there being a curve on the fretboard that is almost imperceptible. When one is completely flat, it feels like it's bending the other way. The action on these is just absolutely incredible. The 0 fret means you get a good, solid, consistent action everywhere across the fretboard. Again, it's a guitar with a tremolo, so it's not really high on my list of priorities. But yeah, I mean, I'll be completely honest. I was looking at picking one of these up just last week, and maybe I need to reach Ben, my good old pal Ben from Vigier. Maybe we can go back to the drawing board and sort out another guitar. Yeah, hit me up. Maybe we can sort out Shawn Lane. I would love to have one of these in my collection. I kind of regret letting that guitar go, but I did get another Vigier for it, which I used on my record, so not all that much of a loss, but still, the Shawn Lane is definitely an extremely cool guitar that's available on the market. Still available on the market today and worth checking out. Very decent price. If you're a modern shredder, I can't think of a better guitar for that super shred thing. It's just an incredible instrument. Now we move on to the number one spot. Now this one was an easy one, and this was asked in the comment section on the podcast last night, and I thought about it for 2 seconds and then immediately went, oh, that's obvious. The number one signature guitar that I would love to own, I would have one in a heartbeat. It's a Gibson, shock horror. And it's a Gibson that's not in production anymore. I'm teasing this out as long as possible. And they're quite overpriced, and they haven't aged all that well either. It's a Gibson Zakk Wylde, the Grail, the bullseye guitar. Because as a teenager, Zakk Wylde was my idol. He was my biggest hero. And I still, to this day, love Zakk Wylde and everything that he puts out. Listening to the early Aussie stuff, the No Rest for the Wicked and No More Tears stuff. Osmosis is still probably my favourite Aussie album. And just thinking of Zakk during that era with the Les Paul, the Bullseye, just incredible. And then when he went out and started doing his own bands, my favourite Zakk Wylde album is the Pride and Glory album. I just think it's a phenomenal record with some great vocal chops on there and some great songs. And again, when I think of live footage of him playing out with Pride and Glory, I think of the Grail, I think of that guitar. Then when he went on and did the Black Label Society stuff, the first 3 or 4 Black Label Society albums I think are pretty spectacular, with the Sonic Brew being a particular highlight. I think that's a really nice raw sounding album, and again I think of that and I just think of that Bullseye Les Paul. I think of spending hours watching Boozed, Bruised and Broken Boned, the Black Label Society live DVD, and there's just a selection of cool Bullseye guitars on there. Ozzy Osbourne live at Budokan, Bullseye guitars on there. Yeah, I just can't shake how influential that particular image was to me in my youth, and I've never stopped being a Zakk Wylde fan, and I totally appreciate that I will never own one of these guitars because they are too expensive for what they are, and I could never own one and actually play it. The problem with a guitar as beautiful as that, let's not go with beautiful. I wouldn't even describe it as beautiful. Let's go for eye-catching. Something that stands out as much as that is you immediately know whose guitar it is. It's an iconic instrument, and I could never play a guitar like that and take myself seriously. I would pick it up and I would play some Aussie solos and some Black Label solos, and I'd have fun with it, but it's not one that I'd realistically be able to use on a lot of things, certainly not on camera. And yeah, that just means that it's not really a viable purchase, and the prices on these things just keep going up and up. And I have talked about this a lot on the podcast as well. The problem with secondhand Gibsons is that fake Chinese guitars have flooded the market so much. Unless you're buying something in person, you can never really know for certain, with 100% certainty, that you're getting the real deal. So I think buying secondhand Gibsons, high value Les Pauls, is a very, very risky game. It's not something that I would ever really want to partake in. So yeah, I feel it would be too risky to try and buy one of these. So yeah, I would love to own one. Zakk, still a mega fan of everything that you do. yeah, we should try and hook up with Zakk Wylde. Everybody tweet at Zakk Wylde and let's see if we can get him on for an interview. That would be good fun. It's been a while since I spoke with Zakk and interviewed Zakk. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to this. I'm just going to run my credits because, of course, this channel is brought to you by my wonderful supporters over on Patreon. If you would like to be like these awesome people, you can check out a link to my Patreon in the description and support the channel for as little as $1. The more support on there I have, the more I can keep making videos, especially during these tough, trying COVID times. That's nice for your support. So thank you very much. I know everybody's having a hard time, and I feel for everybody out there. And it's incredible that some of you are still able to support the channel. So thank you very much. It really does mean a lot. If that doesn't suit your needs, you can also head on over to Amazon, check out one of my books. Again, link is in the description. So let me know about signature guitars that you would love to own. Hit me up in that comment section below. I'm reading all of the comments. Subscribe, tell your friends, all of that good stuff. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you for another video soon. Goodbye.